They say land doesn't just belong to the one who owns it, but to the one who's willing to fight for it. And I learned that the hard way. My name's Ethan Cole. I'm a structural engineer out of New Mexico, and for most of my life, I thought rules and reason could fix just about anything. Until the HOA decided my gravel driveway was some kind of crime against humanity. $750. That's what they fined me for a driveway that's been there since before my daughter was born. Said it violated some uniformity clause subsection 4B. I came home one evening, dust still on my boots, and found a red notice taped to my gate like a threat. That was the first time I felt my family's place, this little ranch my dad built with his own hands, start to slip away under someone else's paperwork. It started with a woman named Beverly Shaw. She's the kind of HOA president who drives a pearl white SUV, wears sunglasses even in the shade, and speaks in legal citations instead of sentences. She parked across my drive one afternoon, blocking me in like she owned the place. "You can't add base rock without architectural approval," she said, clipboard in hand. I told her the driveway had been there since '99. She gave me this rehearsed little smile and said, "That paperwork doesn't exist anymore." "Mr. Cole, we standardized records last quarter." The way she said it, like history could just be deleted if it was inconvenient. I'd lost my wife 3 years earlier to a sudden stroke, and I'll be honest, since then I've been hanging on to this house like it's the last piece of her I have left. She used to tell me if they're going to bully you, make them sign their name on it. So that's what I did. I started printing every notice, taking pictures, logging dates and times, even labeling folders like I was prepping for a court case. The first one I called Evidence a Driveway. Felt dramatic, sure, but sometimes drama's the only thing that gets noticed. Rumors were already floating around town that Beverly had been padding the HOA budget with consulting fees. I didn't want gossip, I wanted proof. So I drove down to the county recorder's office, spent half a Saturday digging through microfilm until I found it. Permit number 1776G, authorizing gravel surfacing from 1999, signed by my father and stamped by the zoning board. My hands actually shook when I saw his signature. It was like he reached out from the past to back me up. I scanned the document, sent it to myself, mailed a certified copy to the HOA. They signed the receipt at 10:42 a.m. the next Monday. I circled that time in red. By Tuesday, they'd sent out a courtesy inspection team. 2 board volunteers with clipboards and matching polos started photographing my backyard. I walked out there and asked, "You folks lost one," said they were checking vegetation height for fire safety compliance. I told them there's no such code in the bylaws and started recording on my phone legal in this state under one-party consent. They froze like deer in headlights. That night, Beverly emailed me accusing me of hostile conduct. It was laughable, but I knew the play. They were building a paper trail to make me the problem. I met with Carla, who used to be the HOA treasurer, before she quit over creative accounting. She slid me a USB drive over coffee like it was a spy movie. "Check the vendor payments," she whispered. And there it was, monthly transfers of $2, $450, to Shaw Design Solutions, LLC. Same last name, same address. Conflict of interest, plain as day. I printed it, labeled it Evidence B, Financial. At that point, I didn't want to sue. I just wanted them to overplay. I kept documenting everything, dates, times, emails. My daughter Lily, 12 years old and way too smart for her age, asked me one night, "Dad, are we going to have to move?" I told her no, but my voice cracked when I said it, because deep down I wasn't sure. Then Beverly made her next move. More fines backdated 5 days. Daily penalties. Unauthorized modifications. I laughed when I saw it, not because it was funny, but because it was desperate. Carla texted me, "Good. Now we can prove selective enforcement. Check 82 Ridgeview. They poured a brand new concrete drive last month. I drove out there myself. Fresh concrete, no citation. I took pictures. Same HOA, same rules, zero fines. That's when I realized this wasn't about gravel. It was about control. I filed a records request demanding all variance approvals for the past year. That's when Beverly called me voice like vinegar. Ethan, this constant paperwork is creating hostility in the community. I said transparency isn't hostility, Beverly. It's policy. She huffed and hung up. That's when I knew I had her attention. A week later, I discovered something my dad used to mention, a drainage ditch that never lined up right on the old survey. So I pulled county maps, traced the parcels, and there it was. The HOA's common area extended 16 feet into my land. They'd been maintaining and claiming part of my property for 20 years without realizing it. I drafted a letter titled, Notice of Boundary Clarification and Revocation of Unauthorized Easement. Sounded fancy enough to scare a bureaucrat. I mailed it certified. 2 days later, they signed for it. That's when Beverly showed up again. You can't just change boundaries, she snapped from behind her sunglasses. I held up the plat map. Actually, Beverly, you've been obstructing mine. Her nostrils flared. This isn't over. Didn't think it was, I said. But maybe it's changing direction. From then on, it was war by paper. Every morning, another envelope, weed height violation, mailbox rust, excessive decorative gravel displacement. I started a new binder just for them. By the time I hit 40 notices, the binder wouldn't close. Carla called it my harassment mosaic. She wasn't wrong. Still, I stayed polite in every reply, quoting statutes, adding timestamps. My wife used to say, calm is the loudest weapon. Then came the turning point. A neighbor, old Mr. Whitaker, stopped by with a folder in his trembling hands. You'll want to see this, he said. Inside were photos from last year's HOA picnic, Beverly handing a check to her brother-in-law's firm, under a banner that literally read, Sponsored by Shaw Design Solutions. I could have kissed that man. I scanned everything and sent it straight to my lawyer, Tony. He wrote back, That's the nail. Wait for the meeting. So I waited. In the meantime, I quietly formed an LLC, Mesa Ridge Holdings, and transferred that 16-foot drainage strip into it. Suddenly, the HOA's access road, their maintenance zone, even part of their drainage system ran across land I controlled. I wasn't just defending my property anymore. I was holding a card they didn't know existed. When the next board meeting rolled around, I showed up, early binder in one arm, a manila envelope in the other. Sheriff's cruiser parked outside, lights off, but presence clear. Beverly walked in wearing her usual navy blazer, chin high, pretending the world still bent her way. Meeting called to order, she said, banging her gavel like a judge in a bad TV show. First item, drainage access. That was my cue. I stood, walked to the mic, and laid the envelope on the table. Before you reaffirm anything, I said you might want to read this. She frowned. Residents can't introduce documents without prior approval. This isn't an introduction, I said, sliding it across the table. It's a notification. Inside was the notarized deed showing the drainage parcel now belonged to Mesa Ridge Holdings. The sheriff looked at it, nodded once. It's stamped and filed, he said quietly. Private property until proven otherwise. You could have heard a pin drop. Beverly's face went pale. You can't privatize drainage, she shouted. I leaned into the mic. Then you might want to file for an access permit like everyone else. She stammered. You're blackmailing me. No, I said. I'm giving you a choice. Acknowledge the boundary void, the false citations, and start following the law, or let the county handle your perjury publicly. One of her board members, Harold, finally spoke up. Ellen, maybe we should sit down. Harold, she barked. He didn't. No, he said, voice shaking but strong. He's right. I closed my binder. You have 7 days to issue written retractions, or I'll file for injunctive relief and damages. I have every email, every notice, every timestamp. She glared at me, jaw tight. You'll bankrupt the HOA. I looked her dead in the eye. Then you'll finally understand how it feels to be bullied by your own association. By the next morning, chaos. Emails flying, residents furious, board members resigning. The local paper called for comment. I just told them, print the documents, they tell the story. A week later, Beverly pulled up in front of my gate. No sunglasses this time, no armor. She looked tired. You won, she said. I shook my head. No, we just stopped losing. She hesitated, then asked softly, will you lease the drainage access back? I said. Already did. $1 a year. On one condition, you post every budget and every vote publicly. She blinked, surprised. That's fair. No, I said, that's reform. Months later, the new sign went up at the entrance. Mesa Ridge Estates, a transparent community. Under it, smaller letters read, Open Records Term Limits, Fair Governance. Carla insisted we include that tagline so no one ever forgets what it took. At the first open audit, neighbors showed up with lemonade and folding chairs like it was a summer fair. The accountant went through every expense line by line, no secrets, no mystery. And when it was over, folks who hadn't spoken in years were shaking hands. Beverly came up to me afterward, quiet, no blazer. I thought I was protecting the neighborhood from chaos, she said. Turns out I became it. I told her, then help write the new ethics policy. Show people reform can come from the inside too. She nodded, and for the first time I believed her. That night, Lily and I sat by the fire pit behind the barn, burning the last violation notice. The paper curled and turned to embers, and for the first time in months, the ranch felt peaceful again. I raised my glass to the stars and whispered, we kept it honest, Dad. So now I'll ask you, if you were in my boots, would you have done the same? Would you fight the system that's supposed to protect you or walk away for peace of mind? Tell me in the comments how you'd handle it. And if you've ever dealt with an HOA that forgot who it worked for, hit subscribe, because the next story, well, it starts in Oak Valley, and this time they've got drones watching the fences.